beautiful planet, the home of trillions of life forms of all shapes and sizes. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered if we are alone? What would aliens think of our species and how we treat the planet and other animals? Scientists have discovered the conditions for making life are actually kind of common in the universe, so I think it's practically impossible for life to have only emerged on Earth. Scientists have found life on Earth in areas previously thought where life couldn't exist, so this opens up more possibility of finding life on other worlds. NASA have missions to study if life evolved on other worlds in our solar system. Europa is one of Jupiter's moons, which has water and may have life. Where there is water, it's not out of the question there may be life. People who think there is no life anywhere else remind me of when people used to think the Earth was the center of the universe. There are so many Earth-like planets in the universe. More Earth-like planets are being discovered more often since we started looking with better science tools. Mars is still a mystery how the planet died, losing most of its magnetic field and atmosphere. Evidence of water flow from the past. Some people actually want to try and terraform Mars. You never know, maybe one day we can figure out how to fix Mars to make it more habitable and stop the atmosphere from escaping with magnetic fields. We want to be sustainable and ethical where we settle space. You would think by now we would have learned from our mistakes in history and not repeat them, especially settling space and our impacts on the environment. Earth is our home planet. Our resources are in decline. We don't have another Earth in our solar system, and we have no idea if other Earth-like planets in other solar systems have life. If another civilization is there, we don't want to repeat history, leaving more history of war and conquest. We have made so much progress in the past 100 years with technology. John F. Kennedy got people to the moon in the 1960s with technology that is now outdated. Look how long it took to even get plans to go back. Nobody has set foot on the moon in 50 years. Look how far we got since then. We can do better than this. Not long ago, a lot of our modern technology would have been dismissed as science fiction. We have just begun to grasp what is possible. Knowledge has come a long way, but a long ways to go. We survived the Ice Age. I think we can survive and fix mistakes people have made since then. Unlike a lot of species on Earth, our species can adapt to different situations. We aren't dependent on one specific temperature or any source of food. We can adapt well to be healthy just eating plant-based food. Earth has faced many mass extinction events over the past billion years. Supervolcanoes and asteroids have killed most species that ever existed. Life adapted and evolved. More and more species are going extinct currently, while the Earth is going through changes faster than many species can adapt. We have solutions to change the course of history and save many species from extinction, but time is running out, and our resources are running out. Antimatter is the equal and opposite charge of matter. When both matter and antimatter are combined, antimatter provides the highest energy density of anything known in nature we can make. Satellites can detect antimatter, like NASA's Fermi telescope, which found thunderstorms create antimatter, which reach speeds near the speed of light. There's an estimated amount of 16 million thunderstorms every year on Earth. The Large Hadron Collider produces small amounts of antimatter for science and experiments. Pulsars are known to produce antimatter. And did you know bananas actually produce small amounts of antimatter in the form of positrons from the potassium? Of course, bananas are safe to eat, so don't worry if bananas were dangerous. They wouldn't be healthy. Imagine a future with flights to Mars in under 30 days. Aircraft that can fly for weeks or months without needing to refuel, or go to the moon in an hour. Cities in space. Space tourism is already taking off and really could be brought to the next level on a massive scale, sooner than later. We can make space travel more affordable for everyone, not just the rich. So much more is possible now, and so much is possible in the future. Automation and technology can do incredible things. Antimatter spacecraft could be made before 2050. Scientists have been designing antimatter spacecraft for about 30 years or longer, except antimatter's been too expensive for propulsion at the current cost. If costs can be reduced, this will become practical. Pure antimatter engines will consume far more antimatter than a hybrid engine, but offer the fastest, most efficient speed from any known reaction. Interstellar travel will open up more possibility of studying the universe in even more detail. Space travel can be dangerous. In the event something did go wrong with a positron spacecraft, it would only release a flash of gamma rays if it exploded, in about the same radius as a conventional rocket, not leave radioactive particles left as with nuclear. People would experience far less cosmic and solar radiation, and less impacts on health from space travel with the quicker travel times. Space settlements can be made with today's technology, creating more real estate, and could be used for industry, commercial, or residential. Different designs of space settlements exist, including cylinder and torus designs, and can be made different sizes, even several kilometers long. Metals aren't exposed to oxygen in space. If we develop antimatter propulsion, building space settlements on a large scale will be easier. Depending on the size, space settlements can be home for thousands of people, or even millions of people. Lots of new job opportunities could be created in every industry. Pretty much a lot of the jobs on Earth would be available in space. People who wanted the money could eventually decide to go work in space to work for a period of time and then return to Earth. And some jobs could be available to work remotely. Some industries would benefit a lot by working in space without gravity, or limited gravity like on the moon or on an asteroid. Space settlements have actually been proposed for decades and in legends of time past. Space settlements were designed in the 1970s and even decades earlier by Wernher von Braun, the Nazi scientist who was brought to the United States under Operation Paperclip and worked for NASA, making lots of contributions to society with his knowledge of space travel. In the summer of 1975, a report came together at Stanford University and Ames Research Center of NASA called Space Settlements, a Design Study. The study had 19 professors of engineering, physical science, social science, and architecture. Different space settlement designs were proposed to hold thousands or millions of people. Nobody has yet built a space settlement that can hold thousands of people, let alone 500,000. Artificial gravity can be generated by a slow rotation. This was demonstrated over 50 years ago during the Gemini 7 mission. Buzz Aldrin connected the Gemini 7 spacecraft with the Agena spacecraft by a 100-foot tether. Thrusters were fired, which induced spin, and a small amount of artificial gravity was generated. Space settlements can actually be made as a spacecraft to move around. And with antimatter propulsion, this means literally being able to travel long distances to other solar systems light years away. There has been a long interest to build permanent bases on the moon. Imagine more places to travel, hotels orbiting the moon, Mars, Jupiter, and one day maybe in interstellar space. Massive cruise ships could be made in space and visit different planets, or just go sightseeing. Longer missions to Jupiter would take more than a few months of vacation time. Some people already go on months-long cruises, and some have lived on cruise ships for years. So it's not out of the question that space tourism will eventually venture deeper into space, and more people want to see Jupiter or Saturn with their own eyes. Private industry has demonstrated the ability to launch spacecraft for cheaper than government programs like NASA, and space tourism is growing with space hotels on the horizon. More companies are also moving towards fully reusable rockets, which is the future. Too many space launches since the start of the space age have been creating a lot of space debris, which actually poses a risk to space travel. People have experienced firsthand how the cost of living has gone up over the years. The cost for people to drive has become unaffordable for some. The cost of food is unaffordable for many. Solutions exist to make life easier and more affordable for everyone with abundance, a cheaper cost of living, and have more protection against inflation with sound money. It's harder to build the future if people are struggling with an increased cost of living and struggling economies, preventing fair competition in business. We don't want to wait to develop space when things get more expensive because governments won't get rid of failed policies, preventing our civilization from thriving and having cheaper costs. Eventually, the cost of vacation to Mars and back may be affordable for the average working person. Is that a future you support? There may be some people opposed to space travel and advancing our civilization, except we can speed up the development of space and allow for cheaper science experiments to benefit science and life on Earth. If you plant seeds, they grow. It would be possible to have living conditions in space settlements much like Earth, with a naturally produced atmosphere from plants, and even mimic night and day for 24 hours, weather patterns, make it rain or snow. Every space settlement could decide for themselves. Maybe people want to live with seasons and weather, or summer all year long. The naturally produced atmosphere helps filter some cosmic radiation, just like Earth's atmosphere shields us from cosmic rays that damage our DNA. Protective coatings for the space settlement could probably be made to also add more layers of protection. In this solar system, there are many asteroids, that have value over $1 trillion and may contain anything from water to metals, including iron, gold, platinum, silver, and more. There are different asteroid types, which may require different methods of mining to collect dust fragments. Early in Earth's history, the planet was bombarded with asteroids. We may discover new metals or elements on different asteroids. We think we know, but there is a lot more to learn. Asteroid mining can greatly benefit life on Earth, especially with our resources in decline. Electrolysis can be used to separate metals in asteroids, and other solutions exist by companies who seek to mine smaller asteroids, which seem to break up into smaller fragments. A lot of useful metals on Earth for our technology are rare or limited and won't get any more abundant if we do not develop asteroid mining soon and establish a supply chain. Clean drinking water is important to allow for a thriving civilization and establish settlements on other worlds. We are still discovering new near-Earth asteroids in our solar system, and we should make this a higher priority to make sure we didn't miss something. We could be missing something on a direct path to Earth. Asteroid impacts could destroy entire countries or continents. An asteroid impact is thought to have wiped out the dinosaurs. Even most of the planet would be affected by a massive asteroid impact large enough. Antimatter may provide a better, more efficient solution without leaving any radioactive debris or breaking up into smaller pieces. Moving asteroids may actually be possible. If you set up multiple propulsion systems on an asteroid, a good pilot may be able to slow its speed and alter its course. Then the asteroid could be used for mining instead of blown into oblivion. The sun is still a mystery. We have theories about the sun if it's powered by fusion. Some people have theorized if the universe is electric. The universe is actually full of plasma, but mysteries remain. What if dark energy or dark matter plays a role? More science should give us more clues and answers. Solar flares produce hotter temperatures on the corona than on the inside. Nobody has seen inside the sun. Solar flares can produce several tons of antimatter at a time, which is a more powerful force than nuclear. The amount of energy that can be collected from solar panels in space is incredible. The NASA Parker Solar Probe has been flying closer to the sun than anything else in an attempt to study the sun in more detail. We have a lot to learn since modern physics can't explain the observable universe. Dark matter and dark energy are some of the biggest mysteries in modern science. The motion of gravity and matter can't explain how galaxies are held together. Another force is at work, and with universe expansion, anti-gravity may not be science fiction like we thought. Scientists tell us antimatter is too expensive to be used for spacecraft fuel, except we have solutions. The cost of antimatter currently would cost many trillions of dollars per gram, except antimatter is made in much smaller amounts than a gram. Our studies are very limited at this time. More efficient antimatter production could revolutionize science and open up interstellar spaceflight. Natural particle accelerators in space exist and can be utilized to create antimatter at a much cheaper cost. I think we have some very impressive particle accelerators on Earth already, but why not create something more efficient in space? A lot of the costs for creating antimatter currently on Earth go to all the energy to speed particles up. If you can drastically reduce the energy required to speed particles up, we can create cheaper antimatter. Antimatter factories could make use of natural particle accelerators in space, being able to create antimatter at a cheaper cost. Different methods may be able to also produce antimatter. The Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer experiment on the International Space Station has been studying antimatter by separating matter and antimatter in space. There is a low concentration of antimatter near the poles on Earth and Jupiter. Antimatter is actually created in Saturn's rings. The universe actually has natural ways to store and produce antimatter. Saturn's rings actually have the largest concentration of trapped antiprotons in the solar system. I believe within 10 years, new solutions can be developed with proper investment for more efficient storage of antimatter. Someone may come up with a new design before 10 years. If more minds start thinking about solving the problem, a design from the 1990s was able to store some antimatter that was several decades ago. Our battery technology has not been advancing as well as other areas of technology. If antimatter was cheaper to produce, then studying its potential for batteries would be more practical, instead of how there's literally a limited amount of antimatter produced on Earth every year at a very expensive cost. As we do more research into antimatter, we may find ways to use it for energy production. But right now, scientists have doubts about that. Antimatter spacecraft could get us to Mars in 30 days or less, as opposed to 6 to 8 months with conventional rockets that can only get us so fast and so far. Deep space exploration and interstellar space travel is not really realistic to travel with conventional rockets. Antimatter propulsion can make trips to deep space much faster and open up interstellar missions to much more realistic time frames. Aircraft and spacecraft could fly for weeks or months at a time without needing to refuel, flying above the atmosphere without so much turbulence. This is a future that isn't science fiction, it's based in science. We could reach Neptune in about a year or less. It took Voyager 12 years. Maybe one day, after investigating the science of warp travel, we may find ways to travel at light speed or faster. Considering modern physics can't explain everything, we should keep an open mind. People used to think no plane could go faster than the speed of sound. Supersonic aircraft were developed decades ago, but never really took off because of the noise. NASA will be testing a new supersonic aircraft that is much quieter, called the X-59, that could lead to regulators setting new rules to allow commercial supersonic aircraft to travel faster than sound. Voyager 1 took 35 years to enter interstellar space. Voyager 2 was launched months after Voyager 1, but entered interstellar space 40 years after. We need to study our own solar system more. Our sun produces a density field around the solar system called the heliosphere, which seems to move. The edge is called the termination shock, where solar wind slows down because of the interaction between the interstellar medium and the solar wind. The vortex is found all through nature. A vortex formation in nature leads to natural methods of propulsion. Notice how galaxies and hurricanes look similar? Yet hurricanes are very small compared to the size of galaxies. Tornadoes and hurricanes can have very high winds on Earth. Fish and birds use vortex fields for natural propulsive methods. Maple seeds utilize the vortex for travel. Vortex currents are created by cars, aircraft, and spacecraft. The vortex field may be able to be modified for increased speed efficiency. There is a cosmic mechanism to expel matter at extreme astronomical distances with vortex currents we see with black holes and blazars. And we can observe a space warping effect called gravitational lensing that helps us see galaxies much farther away. The expansion of the universe is known to act against gravity and go faster than light. This research may lead to innovative propulsion systems found in nature and theory. Glenn Robertson, who worked for NASA, has a research paper on NASA's website, Propulsion Physics Under the Changing Density Field Model. And he did work outside of NASA with a paper called Vortex Formation in the Wake of Dark Matter Propulsion. Aircraft create vortex currents. Spacecraft traveling in space create vortex currents with low velocity and internal acceleration with density excitation. The vortex structures may give rise to the natural extension of Hawking and Unruh radiation, with implications regarding dark matter and dark energy with universe expansion properties. The vortex structure has similarities to space-time models such as warp drive and wormholes, which provides a propulsive method for space travel. Virtual electron-positron pairs absorbed by the gravitational expansion of the forward ship emerge from the annular vortex field at the aft of the spaceship as real particles, like propulsion with conventional rockets. Investigating different forms of propulsion and innovations are important in making advancements to revolutionize travel. If nobody ever tried to advance aircraft, then aircraft would not be able to fly as far today. There are a lot of theories that deserve investigation and need to be put to the test. Some possibilities might seem like science fiction, except we have lots of science to show that warp drives are possible without violating the laws of physics, since the compression of the density field has universe expansion properties, so everything inside the field is relative to the speed of light. We still have a lot more to learn about the universe and physics. There may be more than one way for warp travel to work. The NASA scientist Dr. Harold White did some calculations and figured out how to modify the Alcubierre warp drive to need less energy. NASA did a small limited experiment with a small budget with the warp field interferometer that provided inconclusive results with a laser. We need more research. There would be many variations of that experiment possible, but it's all about how much money they get, what they can do. The goal of EcoWorks laboratories is to investigate technologies for human exploration of the solar system over the next 50 years and enable interstellar spaceflight by the end of the century. Several unidentified flying objects that have been seen over the past 40 and 50 years have in fact been confirmed to be secret aircraft that were developed, including the stealth aircraft, which was kept secret for decades. In 2020, the Department of Defense officially released 3 videos confirming UFO videos were in fact real. They were leaked by the Blink-182 artist Tom DeLonge years prior. According to the Department of Defense, the aerial phenomena observed in the videos remains characterized as unidentified.
This is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's like another thing, it's rotating.
The US military showed honesty releasing the information, and they don't even know what it is. The UFOs do not appear to be a threat from the videos shown so far, and their origin is unknown. You have to wonder how many more videos governments around the world have kept secret to this day, and how many potential species have visited our planet through our history. Could there be hints of truth to some ancient myths? If we used our modern technology 2,000 years ago, people would think it's a miracle.
Nickel 613, Roger. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting. What the fuck is that? Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
The United States government kept stealth aircraft secret from the public for years. UFO sightings were laughed at decades ago. The US government used to deny the very existence of Area 51. They could turn into land eventually good for growing food crops and heal areas with nuclear radiation. It's not just recently governments have kept secrets. The Manhattan Project was created in 1939 to develop the first nuclear weapons and employed over 100,000 people. There were many production sites operating in secrecy. Much of the universe is made of something we don't know a lot about. We can see physical matter, but we can't see other forces at work. We call it dark matter and dark energy. Galaxies rotate about the same speed on the inside than the outside. There's another force at work than gravity. Because of the expansion of the universe, some galaxies are literally traveling at superluminal speeds, and we will never see them again. Which begs the question, is another galaxy so far away we can't see it and never will? I say absolutely there is. We just haven't found it yet, or it's just too far away. Has anybody tried to peer deeper than the farthest galaxy? Imagine being able to zoom in twice as much as our best telescopes, or even 10 times as much. Do you think we might see more details we missed? When the first Webb telescope photos were released, we got to see more detail that Hubble didn't capture. Obviously, with better equipment, we will see more details and find stuff that was too far to see. Many galaxies often interact over billions of years. Scientists use gravitational lensing to be able to see galaxies much farther behind. In the center of multiple Hubble Space Telescope photographs and Webb telescope photographs, there are massive clusters of galaxies surrounded by a magnified view of galaxies much farther away, a phenomenon predicted by Einstein a century ago. The sharp photo shows the space warping effect. The huge mass of the galaxy cluster distorts and magnifies galaxies behind it. The laws of thermodynamics say energy can't be created from nothing, just transferred from one state to another. What if the universe has always existed, or is much older than 13.8 billion years old? As we start using better technology and higher resolution, we will see more detail. There is a well-known star called HD 140283 that NASA has said could be 14.5 billion years old, plus or minus 0.8 billion years, putting it right in the range of being one of the oldest known stars. There is uncertainty with aging the universe at 13.8 billion years old. We keep finding older galaxies and may continue to find older ones into the future. Our location in the universe can't see other parts of the universe, full of objects and black holes, distorting our view. What if new telescopes in the future are able to see farther and photograph parts of the universe older than 14 billion years old? Theories can't explain the big mysteries in science. When the James Webb Space Telescope was launched, it gave us a more clear view of space than Hubble. Do I have to point out the obvious, that we are missing details we can't see? If we had something 10 times the size of the Webb telescope, I think we would see more detail. It's possible scientists will discover stars and galaxies much older than 13.8 billion years old. If there are several galaxies moving at extreme speeds that we will never photograph again, it's likely there are galaxies so far away it's not visible, meaning there are galaxies so far away from us that we can't see. That doesn't mean they don't exist. It's like if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there. Of course the tree fell, people just didn't see it. In every direction we look, there are galaxies as far as we can see. There is still a debate on the speed the universe expands at different times in history. What if the speed of light is relative for the density field inside and not impossible to go faster? If modern physics was 100% spot on, then why are we struggling to explain dark matter and dark energy? We only recently started detecting gravitational waves. Quantum entanglement is when two particles far away from each other will change at the same time. Black holes are a mystery. What if wormholes are real and black holes are like a giant tornado? If black holes' magnetic fields can flip, then there might be a time to learn more. Science has a long way to go before we understand a lot more about the universe. Anyone can play part in a discovery. There are people who discover new asteroids and comets. There is literally a whole universe to explore. So as space is developed more people will have more opportunities. We don't need to build the first antimatter spacecraft, being a huge ship. We can start small and scale up after we learn. Knowledge of building spacecraft has improved. Methods are quicker, and we have 3D printers. It's hard to ignore the impacts we've had on the environment. Scientists have found rainwater is no longer safe to drink due to pollution and chemicals that find their way into the atmosphere and stay in the hydrosphere. The oceans are full of microplastics from fishing equipment and other plastics breaking down into microplastics. Contaminated rainwater has an effect on the soil. Aquifers are where a lot of drinking water comes from, so we need to be serious about water. Nuclear power should have already been a huge wake-up call with the Fukushima nuclear disaster and the fact that Russia literally declared war against Ukraine and invaded Ukraine. A nuclear power plant went offline shortly, which goes to show the risk of nuclear contamination is not going away. Can you see how the moon is covered in impact craters? Debris created by human activity is already a problem around Earth. Some companies are already working on solutions to be able to collect some space debris. So this is a problem that really won't go away until we develop space more. You have to wonder how safe a nuclear power station on the moon will be if the craters are much larger than the nuclear plants. So nuclear power is not something to fool around with. I wish nuclear power was entirely safe, but it's clearly got risks and should be avoided whenever possible. Different forms of renewable energy can provide a sustainable solution for many space settlements. Solar is getting more efficient, and we have automation these days, so solar farms could collect lots of energy which could be beamed to Earth or space settlements. Some countries are planning nuclear-powered spacecraft, which could be an environmental disaster waiting to happen. Currently, accidents in space travel happen more often than in aircraft flight. Space is filled with small asteroids and little pieces that impact satellites and spacecraft. We don't want to have nuclear accidents in space and risk our planet. With conventional spacecraft and antimatter spacecraft, if there was an accident, the explosion would not create radioactive debris like how nuclear does. This should be taken seriously. The nuclear industry has been promising clean, unlimited energy or near limitless energy for decades, but the reactions that have taken place used more energy to create than energy produced. The laws of thermodynamics say you can't create energy out of nothing. Energy can only be transferred from one state to another. What if something else is involved with the sun? We could have lots of renewable energy competing with fossil fuels to reduce energy costs worldwide, which can help speed up the development of space and replace fossil fuels faster. There is a huge global demand for renewable energy and going green, yet many governments limit or ban hemp, which used to be a common crop for centuries around the world. Hemp is a renewable resource that has many uses, including food, fiber, energy, building materials, including hempcrete, which is fireproof, and we have bioplastics from hemp. The renewable resource was banned based on misinformation a long time ago, which resulted in limiting the possibility of our civilization, and still is. Poison industries got an advantage to not deal with so much competition for too long. Dictatorships have had an advantage for too long, selling dirty energy, engaging in war, and violating human rights, while corrupt politicians held back our economies with failed policy based off misinformation. Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia have been very anti-human rights, anti-trans, and anti-LGBT+. More countries need to be producing more at home and stop relying on dictatorships. Growing hemp for energy has a sustainable cycle of plants healing the environment in the process, breathing in CO2. You do not get that sustainable cycle with solar, wind, sea wave energy, nuclear, or carbon taxes. There are governments that have a carbon tax, and nothing is done to actually have a sustainable cycle of plants healing the environment in the energy production cycle. Many governments still burn coal or use other forms of dirty energy when hemp burns cleaner. Some coal plants have already been converted to burn biomass already, so this demonstrates we can utilize the existing infrastructure instead of needing to spend so much more money starting from scratch. Carbon capture is a reality. Poison industries have been lobbying governments for decades, and solutions have been ignored. If enough people add pressure on the governments worldwide, we can see a revolution in going green. Why have we been buying energy or other products from dictatorships to add to their war funds and undermine our own democracy? Hemp farming was encouraged during World War II to build up the war effort. We literally have 3D printers that can print with hemp, which can be very useful for space travel as a sustainable resource. Part of the reason why the world is in such a mess comes down to education. When I was in school, I never learned hemp seeds had more protein than meat. I never learned hempcrete is fireproof. I learned this on my own, before school started teaching it. Recently, hemp is being taught more in schools, so progress is being made. Hemp came from one of the first cultivated crops that led to the development of civilization. Over thousands of years, the hemp strain was bred for more fiber production and no THC, or very little. Hemp is still banned in several countries, or limited in many, even during a climate crisis. As bad as the fossil fuel industry is, it's impossible to ignore how the meat and fishing industries are horrible for the environment and one of the biggest contributors to climate change. It's actually shocking how much land on Earth goes towards animal agriculture. This is not sustainable. Global demand for meat is on track to double by 2050. Every year, I hear about way too many animals being killed from disease or abusive practices from the meat industry. Farm animals can feel emotions and pain just like cats and dogs, and me and you. You wouldn't eat your dog or cat, would you? If you love animals and oppose animal abuse, going vegan can help reduce the demand for animal abuse. The meat and fishing industries actually threaten our very climate. The meat industry uses a lot of water to produce meat, compared to how plants use far less water to feed way more people on the same land. Illegal fishing and hunting are literally causing even more species to go extinct. Somebody's causing a demand for those animals. Look, during the last ice age, people did what they did to survive because plants weren't exactly abundant during that time period on Earth. Before the last ice age, our ancestors we evolved from were herbivores. Scientists actually discovered European Bronze Age skeletons that only developed a lactase-persistent trait in the past few thousand years, and many still have lactose intolerance. Will we adapt now to survive the future? Lots of people already are. Earth is currently experiencing a mass extinction. If enough people care, we can turn things around before things get even worse. Do we want a history of the world opposing animal abuse or supporting it? We are all living beings that feel emotions. There is already a water crisis. Billions of people around the world are struggling to get enough clean drinking water and experience water scarcity every year. I want to have antimatter spaceships more than anyone and have abundance, but everything is being put at risk. Governments literally subsidize the meat industry, restrict or ban food crops like hemp. These governments claim to care about climate change, but prevent lots of hemp from healing the environment, which uses less water compared to a lot of other crops. A lot of people eat what's cheaper, so if plant-based was the cheaper food, more people would eat plant-based. The meat and fishing industries will impact our ability to develop a better future if they keep destroying our planet at the current rate and causing more species to go extinct. The planet is clearly giving us signs. It's been found microplastics in the oceans end up in lots of fish that people eat. And factory fishing uses toxic chemicals which can't be good for the fish or people eating it. If the meat and fishing industries are bad on Earth, it won't be any more sustainable in space. Viruses and bacteria thrive in the environments created by the meat and fishing industries. So many times you hear of animals literally standing in their own feces because there's no room to produce animals for people to eat at this scale. We have already seen several virus outbreaks from animal to human transmission from the meat industry in the past 50 years alone, on the small scale and large scale. Climate change is making the conditions more favorable where diseases thrive. If the meat industry is going to double by 2050 and people don't cut back on the meat or quit, it may be a breaking point for the climate. Many species would go extinct. Is that what parents actually want for their kids' future? We can turn things around and record a positive history where we saved the planet and many species from extinction. We don't want the ocean currents to be altered any more than has happened already. It's just not sustainable what people are doing on Earth, to the point the future is at risk. In space, you need to be able to recycle better than we do here on Earth. It's not smart to dump garbage in space. Who are we to enslave certain species of animals to exploit for food? If people are willing to harm the planet just to eat meat, I think that's more than enough proof. Meat is addictive, just like dangerous drugs. I've been vegan for over 10 years in my life. Billions of others eat plant-based. We do not need meat to live. People in taste tests can't even tell the difference between meat and plant-based anymore. Some companies got them tasting better over the years. Do we do better, or will people continue the destruction and abuse of centuries past? When I went vegan over a decade ago, quitting meat was harder than cigarettes. Some people live in denial about the impact meat has on the environment and fail to see the global impact. Hotter temperatures literally increase deaths of animals and diseases. Animals are dying and get diseases like cancers like humans do. These trends are not sustainable, having mass meat production and increased diseases. The dairy industry produces many newborn male cows that have no use and get sent to slaughter. So the dairy industry is supporting animal abuse. Killing animals who want to live is animal abuse. It's common sense. If you leave a gas car running in a garage, you can suffocate and die. The gases produced by the meat industry globally are far more potent and worse for the climate than carbon. The animal abuse is so common, it's scary to think that people have no morals and think it's okay. So many people are abusive towards animals. Abuse in the meat industry is common. Animals that can have a 20-year lifespan only live 6 months or so in the meat industry. I'm afraid when we find alien life, they will become exploited for food. People literally eat rodents, birds, bats, cats, dogs, and so many animals. It's insane that it's considered normal anywhere in the world. If it's alive, it's eaten as food somewhere in the world. And what's with some celebrities promoting insects as food and ignoring how hemp seeds are healthy? What if the fact that humans eat meat could be a factor if aliens are actually watching us and don't want to talk to us? Sounds far-fetched, but think about it. Humans literally eat practically every living life form on Earth already. So would you want to introduce yourself to people abusing other life forms? Ask yourself, why would aliens want to talk to us if we abuse practically every life form on Earth as it is and destroy our own planet in the process? No other animal on Earth raises and abuses animals to eat them and control their population like we do. Plenty of carnivores are known to hunt down the weaker animals when there's supply. No carnivore on Earth does what people do to guarantee their food supply. It's sad how many people are abusive towards animals and don't care for their well-being. We should not wonder why aliens haven't come here yet to introduce themselves when we can't look after our own planet and treat other life forms with dignity and respect. People have freedom in many countries to criticize their governments, but some countries are dictatorships where people do not have freedom of speech like we do. Don't people care if kids today have a future? Don't you want a future where the cost of living is affordable, no housing crisis, and have better options for travel? As we have learned from the COVID-19 global pandemic and supply chain issues, the global economy is already so fragile, especially to global events such as weather, health, or political. Many countries can't afford big disasters to disrupt their economy. There are dead zones in the oceans now. It's an understatement to say how poisoned our planet is. Hemp was used to clean up soil at Chernobyl, and mushrooms are good at repairing soil too. So we have solutions to heal the planet. If people seen solutions getting support, more people would have a positive outlook on our species and planet. And this isn't a case where the planet will magically heal itself to normal if we disappeared. Experts tell us the climate is in danger. So why are governments undermining hemp? Banning or restricting hemp has given dictatorships like China an advantage. Slavery is still happening on Earth in some countries. Children have literally been mining for metals in different countries to be able to power some electric cars. This whole time, hemp energy has been undermined. If the electric grid was more green, more people could justify driving an electric car, especially if the batteries are sustainably made, dictator-free, and without slave labor involved. We could end global hunger with hemp seeds that have more protein by weight compared to meat or fish, along with a healthy balance of omega fatty acids. There are many millions of hungry people dying every year. One of the best resources we have is being undermined, and people are suffering. The United Nations needs to do better to stand up for human rights. Democracy is at risk. The ability to criticize our governments is a hallmark of democracy. If history has taught us anything, it is without criticism, governments are free to cause harm without accountability to the very people they're supposed to represent. Totalitarian governments could not have caused so much harm through history if people had freedom of speech. The biggest human rights abusers on Earth today, like China, literally restrict what the Chinese people can say or see on the internet. It's highly controlled. Solutions to help the people or the environment are still banned in many countries where human rights are still under attack. Some governments on Earth may allow space settlements to petition to become a state of a country. People will have to be kept happy and have basic freedoms. People need a variety of activities, like on Earth, and the ability to try and make money. Eventually, when there are lots of space settlements, having honest reviews without censorship will be important. I won't be surprised if some would not have any laws protecting transgender people in their space settlement, since so many dictatorships are anti-trans and ignore nature. So trans people like me would not want to visit such places. Many governments ignore how there is more to gender in nature than just male or female, and DNA is not perfect at writing instructions. Some people can be born with an extra chromosome, and intersex people exist in rare cases. Many religions, countries, and states are opposed to LGBT+ rights and want transgender people to suffer with gender dysphoria without any medicine because they think trans people are evil. Several species in nature actually transition from male to female. The clownfish is one species. When the female dies, the top male then transitions to female to take her place. Some people on Earth are abusive. I don't think we can stop those types from causing harm in the future completely. As much as I would love space to be all friendly and peaceful and not need weapons or defense or police, I don't think the extremist will go away. Some may even see the development of space as going against their God. In history, lots of people have interpreted the Bible to justify doing evil things, and some extremist religions see non-believers as the enemy. During the Crusades, millions were murdered in the name of God, and thousands of women were killed because the church believed they were witches just centuries ago. Because of religion and bigotry, some people today are still executed in some parts of the world for expressing themselves differently. Elon Musk has a company literally developing a chip to be installed in the brain. Some people actually believe Musk when he claims artificial intelligence will try and take over the world, and to prevent that, he thinks people should merge with computers, instead of actually healing the planet and stop giving demand for animal abuse, that kind of thing. Tattoos and piercings are one thing. There will be health risks associated with some of the crazy modifications people are planning for the future, and being genetically engineered, or have cybernetic implants installed for non-medical reasons and regret it after. I don't need to see text and image details of things in real time. I like the process of learning and using my personal computer or phone. Glasses would be enough, and wireless contact lenses. What would be the point of the modifications then? I honestly don't think a proper AI would be stupid enough to ignore the science that shows we can heal the planet and sustain our civilization. Humans can help, so AI won't see us as a risk to the planet in the future. I think the kinds of people that want to merge with computers will lead to a de-evolution of humanity, where they aren't even human anymore, lacking empathy, not realizing the benefits of living in the now and the unknown. If you're just recalling information from a database, is that really intelligence? What's the hurry? The unknown mystifies us. We are curious about the unknown. We want to study the unknown to make it known. People have asked questions or wondered for as long as we have been on Earth. People have virtual reality technology, and holodeck rooms like from Star Trek may actually be possible one day. With technology, we can generate clean electricity from renewable sources, so we can make space settlements self-sufficient. Innovation may find solutions to use renewable energy more efficiently as well. There are areas in space called Lagrange points, where the gravity between the Earth and the Sun cancel out, and if an object is placed there, it will stay there easily. Having backup energy for space settlements is an absolute must to allow time for maintenance or repairs, while making sure everyone is living comfortably and their belongings don't go floating away, causing safety hazards. Power outages are known to occur on Earth, and we have very little protection to this day to an electromagnetic pulse. Realistically, in space, the Sun emits solar flares, which are known to interfere and interrupt communications on Earth. Solar storms can take out power on Earth. What if we got a really bad one, knocking out a lot of electricity on Earth? Much of what we have is dependent on technology now. Long-term, space settlements could benefit with armor to be able to withstand impacts. Small debris can be traveling at many thousands of kilometers an hour or more. Layers could be made in sections, so when one section absorbs an impact, it can be replaced if it's too damaged. More advanced plasma shields may be able to be developed one day. Living on Mars may not be easy. It's very far from civilization on Earth. It will take time to develop cities on Mars. Antimatter spacecraft could be designed to also land and take off like conventional aircraft. Artificial magnetic fields may be able to provide a solution to help prevent Mars' atmosphere from escaping. There are many mysteries to solve in science, and as new mysteries are solved, new mysteries are discovered. Sometimes when you think you understand something, there's more to it. Some people get the wrong assumption about science, that it is static. As we learn more, the science gets updated and compared with the old information. Science has come a long way. There is more to gender than just male or female now. Yet some people are fixated on an outdated understanding that denied how intersex people exist and transgender people exist. Some species of animals actually change their gender. You don't see other animals of those species picking and hating on others that transition. The world is so polluted, and we have solutions right here to turn things around for human rights and the environment. Some religions literally think gay or transgender people are evil and deny people basic human rights. Religious belief conflicts with modern science. It's sad, but some dictatorships are planning on settling space and will likely deny human rights as they currently do. People should not be denied basic freedoms and rights. I don't think it's a good idea to fund human rights abusers by buying their products. Dictatorships don't exactly play by the international rules. Space settlements may need defense to protect the settlement. we can make a difference, making the world a better place for everyone. Politicians can't mislead the public if the people know better.